"You're dead when we get home." Marcus didn't whisper it. He didn't even try to be discreet. His voice cut across the white tablecloth, past the flickering votive candle, loud enough that the elderly couple 2 tables over glanced up from their salmon. Sarah's fork froze halfway to her mouth. The pasta she'd been so carefully twirling, because God forbid she eat it wrong and give him another reason to criticize her, suddenly looked like evidence at a crime scene. Evidence of what? She wasn't sure. Ordering the wrong thing? Chewing too loudly? Existing? "I asked you a simple question," Marcus continued, his jaw tight. "Were you flirting with the waiter?" "No." Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "I said thank you. That's all. You smiled at him." "I was being polite. You don't smile at other men." His hand shot across the table and gripped her wrist. Not hard enough to bruise, never hard enough to bruise where people could see, but firm enough that her bones ached. "Do you understand me?" This was how it always went. A nice dinner, his idea, always his idea, would start pleasant enough. He'd tell her what to order, of course, because he knew what looked good on a woman her size. He'd comment on her makeup, how she really should have gone with the burgundy lipstick instead of this rose color that made her look washed out, and then, inevitably, something would set him off. A perceived slight, an imagined transgression, and she'd pay for it later, in the car, at home, in 1,000 small ways that never left marks anyone else would see. "I understand," she said quietly. "Good." He released her wrist and picked up his wine glass. "Because when we get home, you and I are going to have a long conversation about respect." The threat hung in the air like smoke. Sarah's stomach twisted. She knew what those conversations looked like. They started with him blocking the bedroom door. Continued with her pressed against the wall, his voice escalating, his face too close, his presence suffocating every inch of air in the room. They ended with her apologizing for things she didn't do, promising to be better, crying into her pillow while he slept soundly beside her as if nothing had happened. 3 years. 3 years of this, and she still hadn't found the courage to leave. She glanced down at her engagement ring, a modest diamond he'd chosen without asking her preference, and felt the weight of it like a shackle. "Eat your food," Marcus said. "You're making a scene." She was making a scene. Of course. Always her fault. Sarah reached for her fork again, but her hand was shaking now. The pasta blurred through the tears she refused to let fall. Not here. Not in public. That would only make it worse. She didn't notice the man at the next table. Not at first. He was sitting alone, which was unusual for a Friday night at Marcello's, one of the city's most expensive Italian restaurants. Most people came here in pairs or groups, dressed in their finest, ready to celebrate anniversaries or close business deals. This man looked like he'd walked in from another world entirely. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Sarah's car, tailored so perfectly it seemed like a second skin. His dark hair was swept back, touched with gray at the temples. He had the kind of face that belonged on old Hollywood posters. Strong jaw, sharp cheekbones, eyes that looked black in the dim restaurant lighting, and those eyes were currently fixed on Marcus. Not with curiosity, with something far more dangerous. Sarah caught the look by accident when she reached for her water glass. The man's gaze flicked to her for just a moment. She saw something flash across his features, something that might have been recognition, or perhaps just interest, before returning to Marcus with laser focus. He'd heard everything. Of course he had. Marcus had been practically shouting. Sarah felt heat flood her cheeks. Bad enough to live through this nightmare. Worse to have witnesses. She tried to make herself smaller in her chair, wishing she could disappear entirely. Maybe if she stayed quiet, stayed still, the moment would pass. Marcus would calm down. They'd finish dinner. And maybe, just maybe, by the time they got home, he'd have forgotten about his threat. She knew better, but hope was a stubborn thing. "I'm going to the restroom," Marcus announced, tossing his napkin onto the table. He leaned in close as he stood, his breath hot against her ear. "Don't even think about going anywhere." As if she would. As if she could. He walked away, and Sarah exhaled for what felt like the first time in 20 minutes. That's when the man from the next table moved. He didn't ask permission, didn't introduce himself. He simply picked up his wine glass, something red and expensive looking, and slid into Marcus's empty chair as if he'd been invited. Sarah's head snapped up. What are you? My name is Luca. His voice was deep, accented with something European she couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe, which would explain why he'd chosen this restaurant. And you need to listen very carefully because your boyfriend will be back in approximately 90 seconds. Her heart hammered. Please, you don't understand. If he sees you here, he won't hurt you tonight. The certainty in his voice made her pause. There was no doubt there, no question. Just a statement of fact. You don't know that, Sarah whispered. You don't know him. I know men like him. Luca's dark eyes held hers. I've known hundreds. They're all the same. They find someone gentle, someone kind, and they break them down piece by piece until there's nothing left but fear. Something about the way he said it, so matter-of-fact, so familiar with the pattern, made Sarah's throat tighten. I'm fine, she said automatically. It was what she always said, what she'd been saying to her mother, her friends, the concerned coworker who'd once asked about the bruise on her arm. Really, I'm fine. It's just, he has a temper sometimes, but he doesn't mean, he means every word. Luca leaned forward slightly. And it will get worse. You know this already. She did. God help her. She did. Why do you care? The question came out more bitter than she intended. You don't even know me. Something flickered across Luca's face, an emotion too quick to name. Let's just say I have a particular dislike for men who threaten women in public restaurants. He's coming back. Sarah could see Marcus's reflection in the window, heading toward their table. Panic seized her chest. Please, you have to go. If he sees you sitting here, let him see. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Luca didn't move, didn't even glance in Marcus's direction, though he must have known the man was approaching. The question is, do you want help, or do you want to keep pretending that this is love? The words hit her like a slap. Before she could answer, Marcus arrived. What the hell is this? His face had gone red. The color Sarah knew meant danger. Who the hell are you? Luca stood slowly, gracefully, like a predator rising from rest. He was taller than Marcus by several inches, broader through the shoulders. When he turned to face him, Sarah saw Marcus actually take a step back. I'm someone who overheard you threatening this young woman, Luca said calmly, and I thought I should introduce myself. This is none of your business. Marcus's hand clenched into a fist. Sarah, get your things. We're leaving. Sarah started to rise. Instinct, obedience, fear. But Luca's voice stopped her. She's not going anywhere with you tonight. The restaurant had gone quiet. Other diners were watching now, some openly, some pretending to study their menus while tracking every word. Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. Listen, buddy, I don't know who you think you are. Luca Moretti. The name dropped like a stone into still water. Sarah saw Marcus's face change, the anger drained away, replaced by something that looked like recognition. Then fear. Moretti, Marcus repeated, and his voice had lost its edge. As in, yes. Luca's expression didn't change. As in that Moretti. Sarah had no idea what they were talking about. The name meant nothing to her, but clearly it meant something to Marcus. Something significant enough that he'd gone pale. I didn't know, Marcus said quickly. I didn't realize you were... she's my fiancée. This is just a private matter between us. Nothing you said tonight was private. Luca gestured to the restaurant. Everyone here heard you, including me, and I've decided I don't like it. Look, I apologize if I was out of line. You were. But Sarah and I have been together for 3 years. We're getting married. This is just a misunderstanding. Luca turned to Sarah. Is that true? Is this a misunderstanding? Every eye in the restaurant was on her now. Sarah felt the weight of their stares, the pressure to say the right thing, to smooth this over, to protect Marcus even though he'd never once protected her. Her voice stuck in her throat. Tell him, Marcus said, his tone desperate now. Tell him this is all a mistake. Tell him you want to leave with me. She looked at Marcus. At the man she'd spent 3 years trying to please, trying to love, trying to fix. The man who made her feel small and worthless and afraid. Then she looked at Luca. At this stranger who had no reason to defend her, but was doing it anyway. No, Sarah whispered. The word felt like jumping off a cliff. What? Marcus's face twisted. Sarah? No, she said again, louder this time. It's not a misunderstanding. I don't want to go home with you tonight. You don't mean that. You're confused. This guy is confusing you. I think the lady was clear. Luca's voice cut through Marcus's protests like a blade. She's not leaving with you. Like hell! Marcus reached for Sarah's arm. He didn't get close. Luca moved faster than Sarah would have thought possible for a man his size. One moment he was standing beside the table. The next he had Marcus's wrist locked in his grip, bending it at an angle that made Marcus gasp. If you touch her, Luca said quietly, you will lose that hand. Do we understand each other? Marcus nodded frantically. Luca released him with a slight push that sent Marcus stumbling backward. 2 men in dark suits, Sarah hadn't even noticed them before, had materialized from somewhere in the restaurant. They flanked Marcus, their expressions blank, their presence unmistakably threatening. Escort, Mr. Luca glanced at Sarah with a questioning look. Brennan, she supplied weakly. Escort Mr. Brennan out, Luca finished. Make sure he understands that he's not welcome back at any establishment I have an interest in, which, in this city, is most of them. The men nodded. They didn't grab Marcus, didn't need to. Their mere presence was enough to get him moving toward the exit. Marcus shot Sarah a look over his shoulder, part fury, part betrayal. This isn't over, he called out. You hear me? This isn't. One of the suited men said something low and sharp. Marcus went quiet, and then he was gone. Sarah sat frozen in her chair, her whole body trembling. It had happened so fast. One moment she'd been preparing for the worst night of her life. The next, Marcus was being escorted out by men who looked like they ate people like him for breakfast. Luca settled back into his own table, then paused and looked at her. You should eat something. You've gone pale. I don't. Sarah's hands were shaking so badly she couldn't hold her fork. I don't understand what just happened. You stood up for yourself, for possibly the first time in a long while. But who are you? She looked at him properly now. Really looked. What did you say your name was? Luca Moretti. And that means something. Marcus knew that name. Marcus is a small, insecure man who watches too many movies and understands just enough about this city's power structure to be afraid of the right people. Are you... Sarah couldn't quite bring herself to say it. Are you a criminal? Luca smiled slightly. It didn't reach his eyes. That depends entirely on who you ask. But yes, I suppose by some definitions I am. She should have been terrified. Should have grabbed her purse and run for the exit. Instead, she asked, Why did you help me? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. My sister was engaged to a man like Marcus once. By the time I realized how bad it had gotten, it was almost too late. Is she... She's safe now. Married to a good man, living in Tuscany with more olive trees than she knows what to do with. His expression hardened. But I learned something from that experience. Learned that sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply refuse to look away. Tears were streaming down Sarah's face now, though she hadn't felt them start. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. We live together, and all my things are at his apartment, and my car is at his place. And breathe, Luca said gently. One problem at a time. Where is his apartment? She gave him the address. Luca pulled out his phone and made a call. The conversation was brief, in Italian, and ended with what sounded like firm instructions. In 1 hour, he told Sarah, all of your belongings will be packed and removed from that apartment. They will be taken to a secure location until you decide where you'd like them delivered. Your car will also be retrieved and brought to you. I can't. That's too much. I can't ask you to. You didn't ask. I offered. He signaled to their waiter, who appeared instantly. Please bring the lady some hot tea, and perhaps your tiramisu. The shock will fade faster with sugar. The waiter nodded and disappeared. Sarah wiped her eyes with her napkin. I don't even know how to thank you. Don't thank me yet. The hard part is just beginning. What do you mean? Marcus won't let this go easily. Men like him never do. They view women as property, as extensions of their own ego. When you walk away, and you are walking away, he will try to get you back. And when that doesn't work, he will try to hurt you. The words sent ice through her veins. So, what am I supposed to do? Luca reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Heavy cardstock, embossed lettering. A phone number, nothing else. You call this number if he contacts you, if he shows up at your work. If he sends flowers or texts or shows any sign of not accepting that it's over. Luca's eyes locked on hers. And someone will handle it. Handle it how? In whatever way is necessary to ensure your safety. Sarah stared at the card. She should refuse it. Should tell this dangerous, mysterious stranger that she could handle her own problems. But she couldn't. Not alone. And they both knew it. She took the card. There's something else, Luca said. Something I should tell you. What? When I saw you tonight sitting across from that man, trying to make yourself invisible. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I recognized something. Not just the fear. I've seen that before. But you. Something about you felt familiar. We've never met? No, but I think perhaps we were meant to. It was an odd thing to say. Romantic, maybe, if the circumstances were different. But there was no flirtation in his tone, no suggestion. Just a simple statement. The waiter returned with tea and dessert. Sarah hadn't thought she could eat, but the first bite of tiramisu was so good she nearly cried again. Luca watched her with something that might have been satisfaction. What will you do now? He asked. I don't know. I have a friend who might let me stay with her for a while. My mother lives upstate. But I can't. Sarah shook her head. She never liked Marcus. I spent so long defending him to her. I can't face her yet. Your friend. Call her. Tonight. Don't wait. It's late. Real friends don't care about the hour when someone needs help. He was right, of course. Sarah pulled out her phone and sent a text to Jennifer, her college roommate. They'd drifted apart over the past few years. Marcus hadn't liked Jennifer, said she was a bad influence. But surely... The response came within seconds. Pack a bag. I'm coming to get you. Are you safe? Fresh tears welled up. She's coming. Good. Luca stood and pulled out his wallet, dropping several bills on the table. Far more than his meal would have cost. I'll wait with you until she arrives. You don't have to. I do. They moved to the restaurant's lobby, away from the curious stares of other diners. Sarah clutched her purse and Luca's business card like lifelines. 20 minutes passed in surprisingly comfortable silence. Luca made no attempt at small talk, didn't try to fill the quiet with platitudes. He simply stood near the window, hands in his pockets, radiating a calm authority that made Sarah feel safer than she had in years. When Jennifer's car pulled up, Luca walked Sarah to the door. Will I see you again? Sarah asked, and immediately felt foolish. Why would she? He'd done what needed doing. Rescued the damsel in distress. His part was over. But Luca smiled, really smiled this time, and it transformed his whole face. I think you will. In fact, I'm quite certain of it. Why? Because I'm going to ask you to have dinner with me. A real dinner, not whatever nightmare you endured tonight. Somewhere you can actually enjoy your food. Sarah's breath caught. I don't think I'm ready for... Not now, he interrupted gently. Take your time. Heal. Find yourself again. But when you're ready... He gestured to the card still clutched in her hand. You know how to reach me. Jennifer burst through the restaurant door like an avenging angel, blonde hair flying, eyes blazing. She took one look at Sarah's tear-stained face and pulled her into a fierce hug. I'm going to kill him, Jennifer muttered. I'm going to absolutely murder him. No need, Luca said mildly. I believe that's been handled. Jennifer looked at him properly for the first time. Her eyes widened. Holy, you're Luca Moretti. You know him? Sarah asked. Know of him. Jennifer's expression had shifted to something between awe and terror. My brother works in real estate. He says half the city's properties are owned by Moretti family trusts. That's an exaggeration, Luca said. It's more like a third. He said it so deadpan that Sarah almost laughed. Almost. Take care of her, Luca told Jennifer. And Sarah? He waited until she met his eyes. What you did tonight took courage. Remember that. Then he was gone, disappearing back into the restaurant like smoke. Jennifer stared after him. Okay, so we're going to need about 6 bottles of wine and 12 hours because you are going to tell me everything. Sarah let herself be led to the car. As they pulled away from Marcello's, she caught one last glimpse of Luca through the window. He'd returned to his table, alone again, his meal barely touched. She wondered what kind of man ate alone at expensive restaurants on Friday nights. What kind of man stepped into a stranger's nightmare without hesitation? What kind of man he really was. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Sarah moved into Jennifer's spare room, surrounded by boxes of belongings that had appeared exactly as Luca promised. Her car showed up in Jennifer's driveway the next morning, keys in an envelope with no return address. Marcus tried to contact her. 17 texts, 9 phone calls, 4 emails. Each one more desperate than the last, cycling through anger and apology, and threats and promises to change. Sarah blocked his number, blocked his email, changed her passwords. She also called the business card. The first time was on day 3, when Marcus showed up at her office. He didn't make it past the lobby. 2 security guards appeared from nowhere and escorted him out. Sarah never learned who called them. The second time was on day 7, when she got a voicemail from Marcus's mother, explaining that her son was heartbroken and confused, that Sarah owed him an explanation, that 3 years together meant something. That call was returned by someone else. Sarah didn't know what was said, but Marcus's mother never contacted her again. By day 10, the texts stopped. The calls ended. Marcus seemed to have finally understood that it was over. Sarah started sleeping through the night again, started eating regular meals, started remembering what it felt like to breathe without that constant knot of anxiety in her chest. On day 14, she called the number again, but this time she didn't have a problem to report. I'd like to speak with Luca Moretti, she told whoever answered. There was a pause. May I tell him who's calling? Sarah, he'll know. 2 minutes later, Luca's voice came through the line. Are you all right? Yes, actually, I'm better than all right. She took a deep breath. I wanted to thank you for everything. You don't need to. And I wanted to know if that dinner invitation was still open. Another pause, longer this time. It is, Luca said finally. But I should warn you, Sarah. I'm not a simple man. My life is complicated, dangerous sometimes. If you start down this path, you need to understand what you're walking into. I think I do. No, he said gently. You really don't. But I'd like the chance to explain it to you. Over dinner. Somewhere with better pasta than you had 2 weeks ago. She laughed, actually laughed, for the first time in recent memory. When? Tonight, if you're free. I'll send a car for you at 7. I can drive myself. Humor me, At least for the first date. First date. The word sent butterflies through her stomach. Okay, Sarah agreed. 7 o'clock. The car that arrived was sleek and black with a driver in a proper uniform who opened the door for her and called her Miss with genuine respect. Jennifer watched from the window, phone in hand. I'm tracking your location, she called out, and if you're not back by midnight, I'm calling the police. The police won't help if it's Moretti, the driver said pleasantly. But don't worry, miss. Mr. Moretti has instructed me to ensure the lady's complete safety and comfort. Jennifer looked like she couldn't decide whether to be worried or impressed. Sarah settled into the leather seat and tried to calm her racing heart. She'd chosen a simple black dress, nothing too formal but nicer than her usual jeans and sweater. Her hair was down, loose around her shoulders the way Marcus had always hated, but she'd always preferred. She looked like herself again. Finally. The drive took them outside the city, up into the hills where the houses became estates and the estates became small kingdoms. They turned through iron gates that opened automatically, up a long drive lined with old-growth trees. The house at the end was stunning. Not modern flashy, but old-world elegant. Stone and tall windows and gardens that probably required an army of groundskeepers. Luca was waiting at the door. He wore dark slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, no tie. Somehow he looked even more imposing than he had in the restaurant. Or maybe it was just that seeing him here, in his own space, drove home exactly how out of her depth Sarah was. You came, he said. You doubted I would? Hoped you would. Doubted you should. He offered his arm. Come. I promise the food will be worth the risk. He led her through the house, beautiful, tastefully decorated, clearly expensive, to a terrace overlooking the valley. The city lights sparkled below like fallen stars. A table had been set for two, candles already lit, wine already poured. No restaurant tonight? Sarah asked. I thought privacy might be appreciated, given that our last public meal didn't go well. That wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? I did threaten your ex-fiancé in front of half the city's elite. He deserved it. He did. Luca pulled out her chair. But that doesn't mean there won't be consequences. For him, certainly. But possibly for you as well. Sarah sat down. What kind of consequences? People talk. They'll wonder who you are, why I intervened. Some will assume you're connected to my family now, under my protection. Which, I suppose, you are. Is that a bad thing? That depends. He took his own seat across from her. How do you feel about having your life completely upended? I think it already was. You just helped me see it. A woman appeared with the first course, bruschetta that looked almost too beautiful to eat. She set down the plates and disappeared without a word. I owe you honesty, Luca said. About who I am, what I do. You're in the Mafia. He smiled slightly. Such an ugly word. But yes, essentially. My family has been involved in certain enterprises for several generations. Real estate mostly, these days. Import-export. Investments. All technically legal. Technically. We've cleaned up our operations significantly. My father was old school, believed in territory and violence and respect earned through fear. I prefer to think of us as businessmen with a complicated past. But the men who escorted Marcus out, the people who packed my things, that wasn't just business. No, Luca admitted. That was personal. I have resources, and I chose to use them for you. I'd do it again. Why? Sarah leaned forward. I still don't understand why you helped me. You didn't know me. I told you, my sister, that's not the whole reason. He was quiet for a long moment, studying her face in the candlelight. No, he said finally. It's not. Then what? When I saw you in that restaurant, trying so hard to be small, to disappear, I saw someone who deserved better. Someone who deserved to be protected, not threatened. And he paused. I wanted to be the one to protect you." Sarah's breath caught. "That probably sounds antiquated," Luca continued. "Patriarchal. I'm aware that modern women don't need men to rescue them." "But sometimes," Sarah interrupted softly, "it's nice to not have to be strong alone." Their eyes met across the table. The rest of the meal passed in a blur of conversation. Luca told her about his family. 3 siblings, his mother still alive and terrifyingly formidable, his father dead 5 years now. He talked about growing up in a world where violence was currency and loyalty was everything, about slowly transforming the family business into something his children might not have to be ashamed of. Sarah talked about her own family, smaller, simpler, but not without complications. Her parents divorced, her mother remarried to a man Sarah had never quite trusted. She talked about college, about the marketing degree she'd never really used, about the administrative job she'd taken that paid the bills but didn't fulfill her, about how Marcus had seemed charming at first, attentive, how slowly, so slowly she hadn't noticed, he'd started isolating her from friends, making decisions for her, making her doubt herself. "I kept thinking if I just tried harder," she said. "If I could just be what he wanted." "You would have disappeared entirely," Luca finished. "That's what men like him want. Not partners. Dolls." "How did you know? About your sister?" "I didn't. Not at first. She hid it well, made excuses for him. But then one day, I stopped by her apartment unannounced and found her with a black eye. She claimed she'd walked into a door." His expression darkened. "I made sure he never touched her again." "What did you do?" "Nothing he didn't deserve." Luca's voice had gone cold. "And nothing you need to worry about. That chapter is closed." They moved from dinner to dessert to coffee, the conversation flowing easier than Sarah would have thought possible. Luca was funny when he wanted to be, self-deprecating about his own dramatic tendencies. He asked questions and actually listened to her answers. It was nearly midnight when Sarah finally checked her phone and saw 17 increasingly frantic messages from Jennifer. "I should go," she said reluctantly. "My friend thinks you've probably murdered me by now." "Can't have that." Luca stood and offered his hand. Instead of leading her back through the house, he walked her to the edge of the terrace, where the view stretched out forever. "Sarah," he said quietly, "I need you to understand something." "What?" "That night in the restaurant, I told myself I was helping a stranger, doing the right thing. But the truth is..." He turned to face her fully. "The moment I saw you, something shifted. I can't explain it. I just knew." "Knew what?" "That you were going to matter to me. That this, whatever this is, was going to change my life." Sarah's heart was pounding. "That's a lot of pressure for a first date." "I know, and if it's too much, if you want to walk away right now, I'll have the driver take you home and you'll never hear from me again. I promise you that." She should say yes, should thank him for a lovely evening and go back to her safe, normal, uncomplicated life. Instead, she stepped closer. "What if I don't want to walk away?" "Then I'm going to kiss you," Luca said. "And I'm going to ask to see you again. And again after that. Until you're so thoroughly part of my life that the thought of you leaving terrifies me." "That's quite a plan." "I'm a thorough man." He kissed her. It wasn't like kissing Marcus. There was no ownership in it, no demand, just warmth and promise, and the sense of something beginning. When they broke apart, Sarah was breathless. "So," Luca said, still holding her close, "may I see you again?" "Yes." "Tomorrow? Aren't you supposed to wait 3 days?" "Play it cool." "I'm 42 years old. I'm done playing games." His hand cupped her face. "Besides, I told you, I knew the moment I saw you." "Knew what?" "That I was going to fall in love with you." The next 6 months were like living in a dream. Luca courted her properly. Old-fashioned dates, flowers delivered to Jennifer's apartment, texts throughout the day just to check on her. He introduced her to his mother, a tiny woman with steel in her eyes who took one look at Sarah and announced, "You'll do." Sarah met his siblings, his brother Vincent, serious and quiet, his younger sister Isabella, who hugged Sarah immediately and whispered, "Thank God, someone normal," and his older sister Gina, the one who'd been in the abusive relationship, who held Sarah's hands and said, "He told me about you, about what you survived." Welcome to the family. Family. It was a word that held weight in Luca's world. Sarah learned what it meant to be connected to the Moretti name. People treated her differently, held doors, offered seats, looked at her with a mixture of respect and fear. She also learned that Luca's world, while mostly legitimate now, still had its dark corners. There were business meetings he couldn't discuss, phone calls he had to take in private, men in suits who appeared at odd hours with urgent information. But he never lied to her. When she asked questions, he answered truthfully, or he told her directly that he couldn't answer. "I won't put you in danger," he said once, after a particularly tense evening where 3 calls had interrupted their dinner. "But I also won't insult you with half-truths. This is who I am. This is the world I live in. Can I live in it too? Do you want to?" Sarah thought about it. Really thought. About the woman she'd been 6 months ago, shrinking in restaurant chairs, afraid of her own fiancé. About the woman she was now, standing in Luca's study, asking hard questions and expecting real answers. "Yes," she said. "I do." Luca crossed the room in 3 strides and kissed her breathless. "Then we need to make it official." "Official how?" He pulled a small box from his desk drawer, vintage by the look of it. When he opened it, Sarah gasped. The ring inside was stunning, an emerald surrounded by diamonds, set in platinum. Old world craftsmanship, clearly an heirloom. "This was my grandmother's," Luca said. "She gave it to me years ago, told me to save it for someone worthy. Someone strong." He dropped to one knee. "Marry me, Sarah. Not because I saved you. We both know you saved yourself. But because I love you. Because you make me want to be better than the sum of my family's sins. Because I look at you and see my future." Sarah's hands were shaking. "Yes." "Yes?" "Yes, I'll marry you." He slid the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. They were married 3 months later, in a small ceremony at Luca's family estate. Sarah's mother came, cried happy tears, and admitted she'd been worried after the Marcus situation, but now saw that her daughter had found a real man. Jennifer was maid of honor and spent the entire reception making jokes about how she'd always known Sarah would either end up with a prince or a mob boss, and technically Luca was both. Marcus sent flowers. They were intercepted before Sarah ever saw them, and she never asked what happened to them. Some things were better left unknown. The wedding night, Luca carried her over the threshold of their home, and kissed her in the foyer like it was the first time. "I have something to tell you," he said. "Should I be worried?" "That depends. How do you feel about Sicily?" "I've never been." "We're going. 3 weeks, just us. My cousin has a villa on the coast. No business calls, no interruptions. Just you and me, and very good wine." Sarah wrapped her arms around his neck. "Sounds perfect. There's something else." "What?" "I'm opening a foundation for women leaving abusive relationships, housing assistance, legal help, counseling. I want you to run it." She pulled back to look at him. "What?" "You know what it's like. You understand what they need, what they're afraid of, and you have a strength that could help others find theirs." He touched her face. "I'm putting significant money behind it, enough to make a real difference. But I need someone I trust at the helm, someone who actually cares, not just someone looking for a salary." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. "Luca, you don't have to decide now. Think about it. But I believe you could change lives, Sarah, the way you changed mine. The way I changed yours? You saved me." "No," he said firmly. "You saved yourself. I just made sure you were safe while you did it." There's a difference." She kissed him then, deep and long and full of promise. Later, lying in bed with city lights filtering through the windows, Sarah thought about that night in the restaurant. About the woman she'd been. Scared. Small. Trapped. About the moment everything changed. "What are you thinking?" Luca asked, his arm around her shoulders. "That I should probably send Marcus a thank you card." "Why?" "Because if he hadn't yelled that threat, if you hadn't overheard, if everything hadn't happened exactly the way it did." She turned to look at her husband. "I might never have found you." "You would have," Luca said with certainty. "Maybe not that night. Maybe not for months or years. But eventually, somehow, we would have found each other. I believe that. Fate? Something like that." Sarah settled back against his chest, the emerald ring catching the light. "I'm glad it was that night, though. I'm glad I didn't waste any more time." "So am I." They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other. Two broken pieces that had somehow found a way to fit together perfectly. And in the morning, Sarah woke up not to threats or criticism or fear, but to the smell of coffee and the sound of her husband singing off-key in the kitchen. She smiled, got out of bed, went to join him. After all, this was only the beginning. The real story, their story, was just getting started. 3 months into their marriage, Sarah was reviewing grant applications in her new office, a converted brownstone in the city's historic district, funded entirely by Luca, when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her hesitate, and she picked up. "Sarah Moretti?" A woman's voice shaking. "Yes? My name is Rachel. I got your number from the foundation website. I didn't know who else to call." Sarah sat up straighter. "Are you safe right now?" "I think so. I'm at a coffee shop, but he knows where I work, where my sister lives, where I go to the gym. He knows everything." A sob broke through. "I left him 2 days ago, and he's been sending me messages. He says if I don't come home by tonight, he's going to make sure I regret it." "Listen to me carefully," Sarah said, already pulling up her database. "What's your full name?" "Rachel Chen. No, wait. I saw on your requirements that you only help certain... your foundation focuses on... My foundation helps women who need help. Period. Full name, Rachel." "Rachel Chen. I'm in Midtown, at the Starbucks on 5th and... Stay there. Don't move. I'm sending someone to you right now." Sarah hung up and immediately called the number she'd memorized for emergencies. Not Luca's direct line. He was in meetings all day, but Vincent's. Her brother-in-law answered on the first ring. "Sarah? I need a pickup. Woman in danger, Starbucks on 5th and 32nd. Her ex is threatening her. On it. 10 minutes. Vincent? She might be nervous. The menu send... I'll send Maria. She's good with this." "Thank you," Sarah called Rachel back. "Help is coming. A woman named Maria. She'll be in a gray sedan. She's going to take you somewhere safe." "I don't have any money for..." "You don't need money. That's not how this works." 20 minutes later, Rachel was in one of the foundation's emergency apartments, a furnished one-bedroom in a building with excellent security and no public records tying it to the Moretti family. Sarah met her there with a bag of groceries and a burner phone. Rachel was younger than Sarah expected. Mid-20s, with dark circles under her eyes and a bruise on her collarbone, she kept trying to hide with her sweater. "You're really her?" Rachel said, staring. "The woman from the restaurant. Everyone's been talking about it online. There's a whole Reddit thread about you and Mr. Moretti." Sarah blinked. "There's what?" "Someone posted about seeing him threaten your ex-boyfriend at Marcello's. It kind of went viral. People have been calling you the Mafia Boss's bride." Rachel's expression crumpled. "I'm sorry, I know that's invasive. When I saw your foundation, I thought maybe you'd understand." "I do understand." Sarah set down the groceries and sat beside her. "Tell me about him." The story that poured out was achingly familiar. The controlling behavior that started small. The isolation from friends and family, the escalating anger, the feeling of being trapped. "He tracks my phone," Rachel whispered. "I had to leave it at home when I ran. That's why I borrowed someone's phone to call you." "Good. That was smart. We'll get you a new phone, new number. How long were you together? 2 years. We were supposed to get married next month. Rachel twisted her hands in her lap. Everyone thinks he's so great. Successful lawyer, volunteers at the animal shelter, coaches Little League. Nobody believes me when I try to tell them what he's really like. I believe you. But you don't even know me. I don't need to. Sarah reached over and gently squeezed Rachel's hand. I know him. Maybe not his name or his face, but I know the type. And I know that you're not crazy. You're not overreacting. And you're not alone anymore. Rachel started crying in earnest then. Sarah let her, offering tissues and quiet comfort until the sobs finally subsided into hiccups. What happens now? Rachel asked. Now you rest. Tomorrow we'll talk about next steps, restraining order, new job if you need it, therapy referrals. But tonight, you're safe. The door locks, the building has security, and nobody knows you're here except me and the people who brought you. What about him? What if he finds me? Sarah thought about the resources at her disposal, the network of protection that came with her last name. He won't, and if he tries, he'll regret it. She stayed until Rachel fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from fear and adrenaline. Then she locked up carefully and headed home. Luca was waiting in the kitchen, tie loosened, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when she entered and immediately set everything aside. Rough day? New intake. Woman named Rachel. Her ex is making threats. Do we need to handle it? Sarah loved that he said we. Not I'll handle it. Not let me take care of it. We. Maybe. I told her he wouldn't find her. I need to make sure that's true. Luca pulled out his phone and made a call. The conversation was brief, mostly in Italian, ending with what sounded like confirmation. Vincent's already running background on the ex, he told Sarah. We'll know everything about him by morning. If he's a legitimate threat, we'll neutralize it. Neutralize how? However necessary. Legal channels first. But if those don't work... He let the sentence hang. Sarah knew she should probably be bothered by how easily he talked about circumventing the law. Should probably insist they do everything by the book. But she remembered Rachel's bruised collarbone, her shaking hands, her terror. Okay, she said simply. They went to bed, but Sarah couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Rachel, about how many other women were out there right now, trapped in the same nightmare. Her foundation had helped 14 women in 3 months. 14 lives changed. But how many more were there? At 2 a.m, she gave up on sleep and went downstairs to make tea. She was standing at the kitchen window, watching the city lights, when she heard the sound. A car door slamming. Footsteps on gravel. Their house had security. Gates, cameras, guards who patrolled the grounds. Nobody should be able to just walk up to the door. Sarah's phone was upstairs. The panic button was in the bedroom. She was standing in the kitchen in her pajamas, completely exposed through the large windows. The doorbell rang. Every instinct screamed at her not to answer it. But something else, maybe curiosity, maybe stupidity, made her walk to the front door and check the security monitor. Marcus stood on her doorstep. Her Marcus, her ex-fiancé. The man she hadn't seen since that night at the restaurant. He looked terrible, thinner, with the kind of hollow-eyed exhaustion that spoke of weeks without proper sleep. He was wearing a wrinkled suit, his hair uncombed, and he was holding something. Sarah's blood went cold when she realized what it was. A gun. She didn't open the door. Instead, she pressed the intercom button. Marcus, leave! Now! His head snapped up toward the camera. Sarah, thank God. I need to talk to you. I have nothing to say to you. Leave, or I'm calling the police. Please, his voice cracked. Please, I just need 5 minutes. Just let me explain. Explain what? How you're standing on my doorstep with a weapon? I'm not... He looked down at the gun as if surprised to find it there. I'm not here to hurt you. I'd never hurt you. I love you. You threatened me. Multiple times. I was angry. I didn't mean... He took a step closer to the door. Everything fell apart after you left. I lost my job. My family won't talk to me. Everyone acts like I'm some kind of monster. Because you are. No! He slammed his free hand against the door, making Sarah jump. No, I took care of you. I protected you. I gave you everything, and you threw it away for some criminal. Luca is my husband. He's a mobster. Marcus's voice rose to a shout. He threatened me, had his thugs follow me for weeks. I couldn't go anywhere without seeing them. Couldn't apply for jobs without getting rejection letters. He ruined my life. You ruined your own life. I loved you, the words echoed in the night. I gave you 3 years, and you replaced me in 3 months. Like I meant nothing. Like what we had meant nothing. Sarah's hand was shaking as she reached for her phone, but before she could dial, she heard it. Footsteps behind her. Quiet, but unmistakable. She turned to find Luca on the stairs. He was barefoot, wearing only sleep pants, but his eyes were cold and focused. He had his phone in one hand and in the other. Sarah had never actually seen Luca with a gun before. Had known he owned them, obviously. But seeing him holding one, moving with the kind of practiced ease that spoke of years of training, drove home exactly who she'd married. He put a finger to his lips, then gestured for her to step away from the door. Sarah moved back. Luca took her place at the intercom. "Marcus," he said calmly, "you have 10 seconds to put the weapon down and walk away." "You." Marcus's voice through the speaker dripped venom. "This is your fault. All of it." "I'm aware you think so. 9 seconds. You took her from me. She was never yours to take. 7 seconds. I'll kill you. I'll kill both of you. You'll see. You can't just... 5 seconds. My security team is already surrounding you. You have 3 guns pointed at your head right now. 4 seconds. Think very carefully about your next choice." Sarah could see it on the monitor. Marcus's face shifting through emotions. Rage to fear to desperation. His hand tightening on the gun. "Don't," Sarah whispered, though Marcus couldn't hear her. "Please don't make him." 2 seconds. Marcus dropped the gun. He collapsed to his knees right there on the doorstep and started sobbing. Great, heaving sobs that shook his whole body. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean I wasn't going to. I just wanted her to see. Wanted her to understand what she did to me." 4 men in dark suits materialized from the shadows, exactly as Luca had promised. They surrounded Marcus, weapons drawn, waiting for orders. Luca spoke into his phone. "Don't kill him. Just make sure he never comes back." He ended the call and turned to Sarah. She was shaking, she realized, her whole body trembling with adrenaline and shock. "Hey." Luca set his gun down carefully and pulled her into his arms. "You're safe. I've got you." "He had a gun. He came here with a gun." "I know. He could have, if you hadn't, but I did, and you're fine. We're fine." Through the window, Sarah watched the security team haul Marcus to his feet and march him toward a black SUV. He wasn't fighting anymore, just stumbling along like a puppet with cut strings. "What will they do to him?" she asked. "Nothing permanent. They'll take him to the police. Tell them we found an armed intruder on our property. He'll be arrested, probably charged with trespassing and weapons violations. Between his previous behavior and this stunt, he'll likely see jail time." "Will he come back?" "No." Luca's voice was absolute. "I'll make sure of it, whatever it takes." Sarah pulled back to look at him. "How did you know? How did you get downstairs so fast?" "The security system alerts my phone when anyone approaches the house. I was already awake when you went downstairs." He touched her face. "Did you really think I'd let anything happen to you?" "I thought I could handle it. Thought I could talk him down." "You did handle it. You kept him talking. Kept him from doing something stupid until help arrived." Luca kissed her forehead. "That takes courage." "I was terrified." "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it." They stood there in the foyer, holding each other, until the SUV pulled away and the night returned to silence. "I need to call Rachel," Sarah said suddenly. Rachel? The woman I placed today. If Marcus found me this easily, he didn't find you easily. He's been planning this for months according to the reports Vincent sent me. He's obsessed. But your Foundation clients? They're protected by layers of security and privacy protocols. Marcus knew where you lived because you used to live with him. Rachel's ex won't have that advantage. You're sure? I'm sure. But call her if it'll make you feel better. Sarah did, despite the late hour. Rachel answered on the second ring, clearly not sleeping either. I'm fine, Sarah assured her. But I wanted you to know, you're safe. Whatever happens, whoever comes looking, you're protected. I promise you that. How can you promise that? Sarah looked at her husband, at the gun he'd set on the hall table, at the security monitors showing guards still patrolling their property. Because I have resources, she said, and I'm not afraid to use them. After she hung up, Luca locked up the house and led her back upstairs. Neither of them would sleep, but at least they could try. He called you a criminal, Sarah said as they climbed into bed. Marcus, he called you a mobster. I am. Are you? Still? Luca was quiet for a moment. Parts of my family are. I've tried to legitimize everything, clean up the business, but there are still connections, still favors owed and debts to be paid, still moments when the old ways are necessary. He turned to face her. Does that bother you? It should. But it doesn't? I keep thinking about all the women who need help, who need protection from men like Marcus, who need someone willing to operate outside the system when the system fails them. Sarah traced patterns on his chest. The Foundation operates on legal channels, restraining orders, lawyers, official processes. But sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes women need someone who will actually make the threat disappear. That's a dangerous line of thinking. I know, but Marcus had a gun tonight. The legal system didn't stop him. You did. Sarah, I'm not saying we should become vigilantes. I'm saying that sometimes maybe having a foot in both worlds is useful. Legal when possible, other options when necessary. Luca pulled her closer. You've changed. You've changed me. No, you've just become more of who you always were. Someone strong enough to do what needs doing. Sarah thought about the woman she'd been at that restaurant. Thought about the woman she was now, running a foundation, married to a complicated man with a dangerous past, standing up to her ex-fiancé without flinching. He's really not coming back? She asked quietly. He's really not. By morning, he'll be in custody. His lawyers will get him out eventually, but by then, he'll understand that coming near you again would be the last mistake he ever makes. Luca's arms tightened around her. I take care of what's mine. And you, Sarah Moretti, are mine. Possessive. Absolutely. I'm yours, she agreed. But you're also mine. Yes, I am. They finally fell asleep as dawn was breaking, tangled together. Protected by walls and gates and armed men, and the certain knowledge that they were stronger together than apart. When Sarah woke hours later, sunlight streaming through the windows, there was a note on Luca's pillow. Marcus is in custody. Won't make bail. Vincent found 2 more Foundation clients who need emergency placement. Office called. 3 interview requests for your program. Also, my mother wants us for dinner Sunday. Says it's mandatory. I told her we'd be there. Love you. L. Sarah smiled and reached for her phone. There was work to do. Women to help. Lives to change. But first she sent a text to Jennifer. Remember when you said I'd end up with either a prince or a mob boss? The response came immediately. And I was right. You got both. Sarah laughed and got out of bed. She had a foundation to run. A complicated husband to love, and a second chance at life that she'd fought hard to earn. The past was behind her. Marcus was gone, and the future spread out ahead like an open road. She got dressed, made coffee, and went to change the world. One woman at a time.